Setting up conversion tracking in Google Ads as opposed to importing conversions from Google Analytics will give you better data. This is because the Google Ads conversion is better at cross-device capabilities, less likely to be blocked by ad blockers, has additional conversion types such as click-to-calls directions, and gives you the ability to see view-through conversion or display in YouTube campaigns. Hi, I'm Muna from Munalytics, and today I'm going to show you how to set up Google Ads conversion using GTM. What you will need is a Google Ads account set up, Google Tag Manager on your site. I'll leave a link to a video where I showed how you can install Google Tag Manager on WordPress, triggers for the events you want to measure. I have a series of setting up triggers and tags to track stuff in Google Analytics 4. I'll refer to that video, which will be in the link below where we set up these events initially. All right, with that in mind, let us jump in. Firstly, we're going to go into our Google Ads account. On the left, we're going to select goals, conversions. In here, we're going to create a new conversion action. First, I'm going to set up conversions for phone calls. We're going to set up a phone call lead. We're going to add a conversion action. We're going to add a pause from ad. On settings here, primary or secondary action, I want this to be a primary action. Pause from ad, the value. If you want to use a value, for now we're going to say it has no value. Count either every conversion, as in if someone spam clicks a call. In most cases, I only want to count one per person. You can decide the call length. So when using a phone call conversion like this, what Google Ads is going to do is it's going to track people who click the call button, because this is call from ads that is directly in the ad, not from your website. You can say how long does the call have to be before it's able to be counted as a conversion. I'm going to say 20 seconds. Click through window. How long after they click and saw the ad, let's say, can someone complete the conversion and it still counts towards this campaign or the campaign that got that click? 30 days is default. I tend to leave it at 30 days. If you do know that you have a longer time to sales funnel, or people do a lot of research beforehand before submitting the lead, so before getting in touch, you can increase this. And attribution model. For the most part, I use data-driven now. I also want to set up calls from the website. I'm going to use someone calls a number shown on my website. This section, I need to add in my phone number. In the bottom section, it says to paste it exactly as it appears on your website. Easiest to copy and paste it. So I've gone to my website, found the number. I'm going to copy and paste it. Use this event, and I'm going to add another conversion is when someone fills out my lead. So we're going to do submit lead form. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to say create a manual event. What's the name of my conversion? Is going to be Munalytics form submission. You can just call it form submission or anything else similar to that. We're going to save and continue. This is going to give us some events that we need to add on to our website. The way we're going to do this is with Google Tag Manager. We are now in our Google Tag Manager account. We're going to set up some tags. Usually it shows me via Google Tag Manager at the top here, but it doesn't seem to want to show me that today. So I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click into my form submission goal first. Down here, tag setup. Use Google Tag Manager. I need to set up a new tag using this information. Conversion ID is tied to the Google Ads account, so that won't change. If you did want to create a variable in Google Tag Manager for that, we could create a new constant variable. I'm going to call this Google Ads conversion ID. I'm going to paste this conversion ID into there. Take a note of this, as I'll use that as proof later. So now I'm going to set up a new tag. I'm going to call it Google Ads. Remember naming conventions. Conversion. And this is going to be form submission. Tag configuration is going to be Google Ads. We're going to add in Google Ads conversion tracking. It's going to ask for the conversion ID. We could paste it in, but we are going to add in our Google Ads conversion ID. Our conversion label is going to be the thing that changes by conversion. So we're going to copy this. We're going to paste this as our conversion label. This should fire on form submissions. For me, it's form complete. Thank you. Visibility message is the one on my site. We have multiple triggers there as we were showing all the triggers previously. This one we're going to test out and then we're going to publish. But first, I want to look at the other conversions we also set up. Calls from ads. This one does not need any additional setup because this will track when someone clicks on the call button from ad, which doesn't require any additional tracking. It's not happening on your website. And finally, we set up a third conversion. This conversion, when someone specifically clicks on one of the phone numbers on my website and calls in. What's interesting about this conversion is it's available in Google Ads and not Google Analytics, but it can use a dynamic forwarding number. So what it will do is replace the number on your website with a different number. Why this is important is because if someone were to pick up a handset or even type it into their mobile, for instance, and type out that number and call, Google Analytics will not know that happened because there wasn't a click. People on their desktop very, very rarely click on a phone number to call it because they don't have a VoIP or calling system installed. If they're on their mobile, it is a lot more common. But if they are on their desktop, they will likely grab their mobile, type it in, and then call. If that happens and you're only tracking when someone clicks on the number to call, you wouldn't know that phone call happened. However, since Google does use a forwarding number and it swaps out that number, it knows that, oh, I showed this person at this time this number, and then this phone call come in, it's tied to ads. Again, this is only available in Google Ads, and when you're running advertising, it won't do it for any of your organic traffic or anything like that. There are other tools and softwares out there that you can use that will allow you to use Google forwarding numbers, but they do have some charges associated with it. So what we want to do is set up a Google Ads conversion tag. Again, naming conventions, Google Ads. We're going to select Google Ads or from website conversion. It's going to ask you for the displayed phone number to replace. So I'm going to copy it from here so it's exactly the same. Our conversion ID is going to be, as we saw, it's the same as earlier. I'm going to take our conversion label. And what we can do is either paste in this conversion ID, but earlier on we did make a constant for this, so we're going to add that in. And this triggering is going to be on all pages. And it will automatically track when someone clicks on the phone number itself to convert. It will effectively replace the phone number that's on the website with another phone number. All right, we have our item set up. Now, as always, we want to use the preview mode and test that they're working. Google Ads doesn't have a good way to test events like we saw with the Metapixel or even Google Analytics for debug mode. For the most part, I do just check that they are firing correctly in the Google Tag Manager section and later on making sure that some numbers are coming in. So we're going to use the preview function. Now remember, we had some items such as the click from ads that didn't require any tracking. We're going to go to Munalytics.com. This is now tracking. We're going to go to the contact us. We're going to fill out the form submission. And specifically, when we submit this, what we should see happen is the Google Ads conversion form submission fired, which it did. We can also break this down and check exactly when it fired, which would be once the form was submitted here, the element visibility when it said the thank you message, which is when we wanted it fired. It didn't fire any earlier than that, which means that it is working correctly. The other item I would suggest adding in is a Google Ads conversion linker. You need to select conversion linker. No configuration is required. Use it on all pages. This conversion linker helps to make sure Google is tracking conversions correctly, especially if people are crossing across different domains in different areas. With this now done, the next step would be to submit and publish. Now we've set up tracking for Google Ads conversions. Some of my clients do not like it having the number switch just because it's not their number then that is displayed to anyone from Google Ads. Google Ads should hold that number for at least 30 days before changing it or making it navigate potentially somewhere else. However, there is still a risk of using that number if someone calls after a long period. It may be that that number no longer connects to your business. If that is the case, usually I just implement click tracking, similar to what we did for the phone call. Instead, when we selected the calls, we could do custom, and when we count the calls, it would just be counting someone who clicked on a phone call number instead of somebody who is actually dialing in and calling. To me, that's a lot less value because I want to make sure I'm capturing people who are actually dialing up and not potential bots who are just clicking on every link possible. As a note, you can actually test if the number will be swapped out by adding a tiny bit of code to the end of your URL once the Google Tag Manager container has been published. That code would be this section here, which again, I will paste below the video. When I load up the page, you will see this come up. It's attempting to replace it. Sometimes it takes a little while. So what you can do instead is if you click force, you'll see that it did change the thing. In this case, probably want to remove the plus one because now it looks really weird, but it did work in successfully changing the number across. Now you successfully tracked some lead form events and call events in Google Ads. You should see numbers come in the following days, or just keep an eye on it to make sure things are coming through when you see an email come through or Google Analytics is reporting leads to ensure that it is working. If you want to track e-commerce, setting this up in Google Ads or in GTM even is not recommended. A lot of the platforms such as Shopify or WooCommerce will have a section that you can add in your Google Ads ID or link it to your Google Ads account. It may ask for your conversion ID, etc. And it will automatically send the revenue events to Google Ads. If you are already getting it in Google Analytics, it is one of the events, and I would suggest pulling from Google Analytics rather than trying to set up fresh if you don't have a way to set it up relatively easily just by using an ID directly in whatever you're using for your commerce. Things that are good to know. As you saw when setting up the leads, you can choose primary or secondary. If you mark something as a secondary lead or secondary action, what will happen is if you're using target CPA, if you're using maximize conversions or any conversion-based bidding, it won't be counted when it's taking into consideration what it should be bidding for, how many conversions you have. You add in a column called all conversions. You can then see those conversions as well, but it's not used as part of the conversion-based bidding. You can assign values to any conversion. I do recommend clients do this. The reason, even in lead-based businesses, I like to set values is, let's say in the future, a client turns around and says, phone calls are worth a lot more to us. We don't want to give up on lead form. By assigning a value, you're telling it that phone calls are worth more because let's say that the phone calls were converting high. In this case, the phone call was worth $200. Leads for whatever version came out to be $50 because there was a lot of spam coming through. You're signaling to Google these phone calls are worth more, and you can take that a step further and bid with target ROAS and say, Google, you need to give me a 4x return, 400% on my campaigns, and it will know then that the calls are worth 4 times as much, let's say $200 compared to the leads at only 50. You can upload a sheet with conversions to Google Ads if you have the click ID as well. That gives it revenue value. If you're a lead-based business, and let's say you're a plumber, for instance, and you're tracking all these leads, you can feed back into Google, this lead became a client and this client was worth 2,000. Google can then use that data, that real data you're giving it, to identify who that person was, what they clicked on, and what their value is. And then when you're optimizing, you'll also optimize towards people you are telling it they're not just a lead, they're a client. If you do an import of Google Analytics conversions to go alongside your Google Ads conversion, make sure to make them as secondary conversion. Otherwise, you're going to be double counting. When someone, for instance, fills out the form submission, I would have the Google Ads conversion and I would have the Google Analytics conversion. So it would say 2 form submissions. I use it as a secondary. Both the conversions will still be there, but one of them is not being counted as a conversion. Again, it will be in the all conversions column, and it's also not being counted when it comes to optimizing towards. Keeps your account cleaner. Usually I say stick to one conversion for each. Don't have 2 different form submissions. One form submission all through Google Ads. Again, Google Ads does have some benefits like we highlighted at the start of this video, which is why I prefer using Google Ads conversion. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave me a comment down below. Thank you. Bye.